Hi there, Brad Moritz, Hayes, Kansas, for our school law class, um, EDL 850. Um, the book we are using is the Teacher's Pocket Guide to School Law, Chapter 4. The issue that I decided to do my presentation on was cellular phones in school. It's not a real big problem for us at the middle school. But I know a lot of schools have that issue, and it's a big debate on whether or not to have them or not have them. And so I thought I'd kind of go a little bit over cell phone usage and then give you what our school does. According to our Teacher's Pocket Guide to School Law, let me see if I can't go to present this real quick, and we'll see. This is at Google Slides. It's the first time I've ever used that, so it worked out pretty nice. So here's my presentation, cellular phones in school. According to the book in Chapter 4, their guides, after reading along some of their court hearings and this and that's, basically they came up that the use of pagers and cell phones should not be banned unless there is sufficient evidence or disruption or improper use. And so the general rule is that it's okay unless it's a disruption. Rule or guide number 2 was that if permitted, specific guidelines should also be developed in which the devices may or may not be used. So they can be permitted, but again, there's guidelines in circumstances where they can or can't be used. And the school needs to set those conditions. If pagers and cellular phones are not permitted for general use, then there are exceptions where the students would be allowed to use those in emergency, medical emergency, and some other particular reasons. Again, the school is going to need to set those guidelines, make those known to parents and students so that everybody involved are aware of what those guidelines are. And the fourth guide that the book gave us is that the policies or guidelines should always be driven by a sense of fairness, due consideration and unique personal needs of the students. And so, again, it's going to be up to the school's discretion. By law, they're permitted. They're within the rights for students to have those cell phones unless deemed by the school that says that they're going to be a disruption or keep students from learning, which kind of goes into my my standards that I used on this project, and we'll go over theirs in just a little bit. From an office point of view, and cell phones are not used in our school; they're not allowed. So, from an office point of view, here's why they're not allowed. Students will be making phone calls, don't get a hold of parents. Parent calls back and says, I got a phone call from my kid, and then they really don't know what the kid wanted, and then they got to call the kid out of class. Illnesses. Sometimes kids don't feel well. They use their cell phone, they pull it out, they call mom or dad. Mom and dad shows up to take their kid home, and the office has no idea, or the kid leaves, and they've never even visited the nurse. They just called mom or dad, and they came and picked them up and took them away, and so not a good deal. And then, of course, bad for the office is that when students' cell phones get taken away, they got to process those cell phones and document the students' violation of having their cell phones in class. Personal reasons for students to not have cell phones. One, they get lost. Two, they may get damaged. And then thirdly, they could certainly get stolen. And so that'd be a good reason to not have them in schools. In our classroom setting, good reasons to not have them is, of course, sometimes they are a distraction for students. It keeps them off task. And then in some cases, if they involve other students, then they can be disruptive for the class because then they're also not off task themselves, but then they're keeping other people in the classroom off task. Good reasons to go ahead and allow cell phones for our school office is that there's no referrals. Office doesn't have to worry about whether or not kids have cell phones because they may call parents, and then parents know that the cell phones are okay, and so they'll just call them back on their own cell phone rather than try to get them in trouble when we don't have Still, I think that we probably would still have kids calling parents and having them pick them up, and we may still lose a few students because they didn't check in at the office to leave, or in the nurse's office if they weren't feeling good. But at least the office doesn't have to worry about the referrals. Good reasons to have cell phones in our classroom. There's lots of apps that are education worthy. In my classroom alone, I know that we'll get the cell phones out every once in a while to make sure that everybody has a calculator if we're doing some calculations. More apps. There's Google Maps. There's social studies things. Kids can look up whatever a little bit quicker than having to get computers out if they happen to have a smart phone. And then there's all kinds of apps that I don't even know about. But I know that a lot of teachers are going to moving toward using cell phones in classrooms, and it's a good thing if they've got reasons to use them, and the administration is okay with it. So there's some good things and some bad reasons to have or not allow cell phones in classrooms. Personally, good for cell phones. Kids can use them before and after school, and it would be a good way for students to contact parents in an emergency. We happen to have something go on in the building where parents need to be notified, or something happens, and parents need to get a hold of their kid. That might be an easier way for students to get a hold of their parents, or parents to get a hold of their kids without having to go through the office and all that stuff. And so, some good reasons for having cell phones. Our policy, like I said before, is not allowed. On the first offense, students get a warning. It gets documented that the phone was taken away. Then they get their phone returned. On the second offense, parents get called. It's documented that it got taken away a second time, and then the phone is returned. On the third offense, and I'm not sure if this is okay or not. I really never checked. But on the third offense, parents get called. It gets documented that they had the phone taken away a third time, and then they do not get their phone back. And so that'd be the part that I'm not real sure. Parents are paying for a phone, monthly bills. I think the office does have phones, and so I think they don't give them back, or either they give them back to the parents maybe, and the kids don't know about it. I don't know. Something happens anyways. Some of the exceptions that we have, our administration has deemed it worthy for teachers to have their own discretion, because like I said, sometimes teachers they've got reasons to take a phone out to use for curriculum or schoolwork, part of their program. And so it's up to the teachers, as long as it's for class use. And that does not give students permission to just start using cell phones, especially in other classes. You can use it for that one class and then put them back away. And then, of course, that's with permission through all classes. But there are certainly reasons that we could use cell phones. But our policy is we don't want to see them, we don't want to hear them. If we see them or hear them, we take them away. So whether you agree or disagree with cell phone use in school, at least at the middle school, there's not a whole lot of reasons why students should have a phone out anyways. And so it's real easy for us at the middle school to say, you know what, just keep them in your book bag. We don't want to see them, we don't want to hear them. You don't need it. You can use it before and after school, and that's really all that needs to be said about it. Again, I got all my information, my guides out of Chapter 4, Teacher's Pocket Guide to School Law. So there you go. This concludes my Module 4 blog, and